Hey everyone, as Vincent said, my name is Katie, and I have been with FCA for 4 years, so it's crazy. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay. Yeah, so it's been crazy just to go from freshman year in the ballrooms. Vincent and I would walk over, go to the ballrooms, not really know anybody. There's like 10, 15 of us. And now to sit here and look at all of you and just see the way God's moved in the community on this campus. So it's been a blessing to be president for y'all, to be on leadership, to just have relationships with y'all, to get to know y'all. If I haven't gotten to know you, please come say hi. Like, I would love to get to know you. But yeah, I'm just sitting here in awe of like what I'm seeing and how everyone has been so great and just showing up and just loving on each other and just building this community at Southwestern. So thank y'all for this and my 4 years that I've been here. Yeah, I'm just gonna tell you my story and how I'm here and how I've gotten here and the graces that God has given me. So growing up, both my parents were Christians. We went to church when we didn't have sports on Sundays. We knew prayers. I knew all my prayers, the Lord's Prayer, and we said it before bed, but that was kind of the extent of my faith. I just knew about God. I knew who Jesus was. We went to church, and that was kind of it. It wasn't the center of my family, and not everything revolved around our faith and lived out of there. I would say the first time I really leaned on God was when my parents got divorced in 7th grade. That was really hard because it was so surprising, and as my family, and just kind of realizing the weight of what that was going to be. So I knew, I'd always heard everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. So I was like, okay, there's got to be a verse about this because there's a verse about everything. God knows everything. So I looked up, literally Googled verse for everything happens for a reason, and I found Psalm 37:5, commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will act. But there was another, it wasn't like the exact verse, but there was a version I liked better that kind of was the same. God has a reason for allowing things to happen. We may never understand his wisdom, but we simply have to trust his plan and his will. And so in 7th grade, it was the first time I was like, okay, God is in control. And so I really leaned on that because I had no idea what to do, that my parents were getting divorced. So that was really hard for me. And coming into high school, that was the verse I put on the back of my Letterman. So that was kind of what I hung on to. And from there, I leaned on God even more. But since my parents got divorced, I knew that was out of my control, and I focused on what I could control, which was volleyball, academics, and relationships. So throughout junior high and high school, those became my identity. I became a volleyball player, someone who did really well in school, and someone who was always dating a guy. So that kind of became how I defined myself and how I gave myself worth, doing well. If I didn't have a good day, I didn't think as highly of myself. And I definitely carried into college. And God's so funny because he has a way of tearing it down and rebuilding it back up to something so beautiful. So my freshman year, I come in, I'm like, okay, there's freshmen, sophomores on the volleyball team. This is gonna be great. My goal is to start. And so I ended up starting, which was awesome and such a blessing. And, I feel like I worked hard, so I was like, this is great. But then, not even a few weeks later, I had news that I had monos, which meant I was gonna be out for 8 weeks, which also meant the rest of my season freshman year. So that was really hard for me. I was devastated. When they told me, I cried because I'm like, what? I worked so hard, wasn't even gonna play in college, and here I am playing now, and I'm starting, and this is awesome, and all I've worked for, and now I don't get to play. And at the same meeting that I had to tell my team that I was out for the rest of the season, I also announced that I was voted captain. And I was like, God, how am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to, because I love to lead by example, that's a gift I feel like God's given me. And so I'm like, how am I supposed to lead my team and I'm not even able to play, the rest of the season? So God slowly started to strip that identity, oh, you're an athlete, your value's based on your performance. He slowly started stripping me away from that. And by the end of the season, I had a few gifts from God of people telling me oh my gosh, you coming off the court and seeing your face, wow, that gave me so much peace. And I was like, wow, okay, I'm here for more than just volleyball. I'm here for these people and these relationships. But I think volleyball was still probably a big identity even then, but God kind of set me back a little bit and helped me zoom out and see there's more here. Yes, this is a gift, but this gift is for his glory. So a couple months later in the spring semester after volleyball season, I ended a relationship that was 2.5 years long, and I thought I was gonna marry this guy. I thought, this is it, this is my guy. And so when I finally ended that relationship, I was able to take a step back and be like, whoa, I've been in a relationship with different guys for pretty much 5 years straight, different guys. And so I never had a time to sit and be like, who does God say that I am? Whether it be volleyball academics, like stripping that away during COVID, who does God say that I am? And so I got to sit for the longest time not being in a relationship for 6 months out of 5 years without being in a relationship, which is crazy because I'm like, oh my gosh, Katie, what are you doing? But I got to sit and just be like, God, who do you say that I am? Like, what? I allowed him to fill the hole that I tried to fill with other things. So that was a huge moment and time in my life that I was able to sit away from all the things that I thought defined me and gave me worth, and realize that God is the one who gives me worth. One of the verses that I also hung on to at that time, but seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. Because I was at a point in my life where I was like, okay, like, yes, I thought, there's nothing was secure. Like, I was like, okay, I'm coming to play volleyball. I'm in a relationship, doing good in school. Okay, all these things got stripped away, and it's like, who are you without all these things? Like, if I, broke my legs, like, whoa, like, I couldn't do what I've always loved to do, like, who am I? What am I? Like, how would people see me? So yeah, I just kind of really dove into the fact of, like, put God first and everything else will be okay. I felt peace, I felt joy, and I wasn't playing volleyball at the time. I wasn't in a relationship, and so that was a huge weight and a huge relief to know that I don't have to rely on sports or jobs or academics to feel good about myself, to feel like have value and have worth. So yeah, that was a huge part. That was my sophomore, going into my junior year, and when COVID hit. And then really fast forward, this has been, just looking at y'all, like I said, and the relationships I've made have been a blessing, and I've kind of really leaned into putting God first in my life, and everything has been such a blessing. There's been a lot of hard times still throughout all of it, but just trusting God and putting my faith in him and seeking him first, he's given me so much more than I could have ever asked for, in the small moments and the big moments. So that was a huge summer for me and a huge change in my faith. And then I think where I'm at now, this last season of my life, this last semester, being in 4 credits, not feeling like a student, but still being here, still being on the volleyball team, still, doing a bunch of organizations, I'm able to just sat back and just see who God is. So yeah, this season on my volleyball team, I took a different role this year, and that was really hard for me. Really, really hard because, I'm like, okay, it's my senior season, let's go, it's gonna be great, everything, COVID year, when our season was cut short, my freshman year when I had mono, last year when we went to the national tournament, but I was not in a good mental space, this is the year. And God had different plans for me. And I can sit here and be such at peace with that because of all that I saw him do and all the affirmations he gave me. Even from the first weekend of our opening season, just the girls that I don't talk to that much just texted me and we're loving, just loved it on me. And I'm like, God, that's from you, because I've prayed, how hard this is. But God provides. Even though it's not what it looks like, he's like, I'm preparing you. I'm with you in this. I'm ordering your steps. So yeah, it's been a hard season, but I've just seen God's character in all of that, and just him being so faithful. One of the verses that I wrote on my shoe, not on this one, but my volleyball shoe, was Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. And there's a phrase in sports called audience of one, AO1. And I also wrote that on my shoe on the other side. And one of my teammates gave me a bracelet, which was super sweet, of it, just to remind me of, yes, the spotlight is on the court, and yes, the spotlight is in the classroom, and all those things, but if you're working for God, oh my gosh, he's gonna give you so many more blessings behind the scenes, whether it be relationships with people, having people, my end of the year notes, I was just I could have never imagined that I had this impact on people. And it wasn't for me, it was because when I turned my eyes to God and gave him the glory, he rewarded me so much more than I could have ever asked. But I thought it wouldn't have been a rewarding season or a good season or just a good career, over the 4 years, because it's been a long time. There's been a lot of things that have happened, but when I gave him the glory, when I turned my eyes to him, he gave me so much more than I've ever could have asked. So as I sit here in front of you, I've learned 2 things. The first thing is my value goes beyond any job, sport, grade, or relationship I'm in. My identity is in Christ and Christ alone, which means no matter what I do, it is an audience of one, and he is the one that defines me, and no one can take that away. No one can separate me from the love of God and the power that he has and who he says I am, which is a child of God, a beloved, someone who he just, like all of us, all of you, if you don't know, you are so loved by God. And it takes kind of everything getting stripped, all your identities getting stripped of you to realize that you don't have to do anything and he loves you. You are worth so much more and you don't have to do anything. And that's like, okay, Katie, like whatever. But like sitting in those dark places, we've all had dark places, bad grades, bad tests, bad things, bad performances. And it's like what, why am I here? What's my purpose? Like God's always working for you. And he loves you and he's doing something with your life always. So that was something I learned. And then the second one, just who God is, the love God has for me and the way he cares for me and all of us, not just me, all of you. Whether you know God or not, he loves you so much. And that no matter what I'm doing, he's working for my good and preparing me for what he has called me to do. A lot of times we make all these plans, and we're like, God, like, please help these plans come true. But what I've learned since I've been here, the plans I make, it's good to have plans and to pray and to ask God to help you through them. But what I've learned is that no matter what happens, God doesn't have a plan A, B, and C when you mess up or when things go wrong or you make a bad test grade. He takes ashes and turns them to beauty. So he's always working for your good, even if it feels like a season of waiting. Like there's things going on in that time. And that felt like, I felt like, okay, this is, my last season. Nothing's really happening. But God was doing so much. And when my teammates would talk back to me, I'm just like, wow, like God, you are so good. Like this is not me. Like out of my strength, I would be so bitter. I would be so sad that I'm not playing my last season. Like there would just be a lot of feelings, human feelings that are natural and we feel them. But then turning our eyes back to God and be like, you're doing more here. Like from my freshman year, this is a gift from you, but this is not why I'm here. This is getting me here to reach people for your glory. So yeah, 2 verses was Romans 8:28, and we know that all things God works for the good of those who love him and have been called according to his purpose. And then Proverbs 16:9, in their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. So God orders our steps no matter how unfair things seem to be or how hard things seem to be. Like God is ordering our steps and he is the one in control, not your professor who gives you a bad grade and you want to get into med school or coaches or anything. Like God is the one writing your story, even if it doesn't seem like that. So just kind of sitting here, I heard this song, Goodness of God, and this is the last thing. But this is kind of where my relationship is at with God. This is the very beginning of the line, or of the song, and it just sums up like just how in awe I am of him and like what he's done for me and just how I've seen his love throughout the time I've been here. It's called Goodness of God, and it says, I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. In all my life, you have been faithful. In all my life, you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. And I think even in the hard times, I've just been able to sit back and be like, God, you're so faithful and you're so good. And every time, he's just been so good and so faithful through all of it. So, that's my story, and that's how I'm here. And hold on. I told people I would do this, so I'm going to do this. And I love Jesus. And there's hard eyes. But yeah, that's my story.